Okay, so the first question, um, so I compare you. So after listening to Brockhampton, I understand the way that your music sounds. Not like I understand the way, but like I see the inspiration. So your first question, I know the answer to this, but your first question is, who is Kevin Abstract to you?
Wow. Kevin Abstract, to me, I don't know, I have a problem where I see him almost as like a god or something, just because of all the stuff he's doing right now. Like on the song "Follow" that they released, he says in the song 19, I almost signed to Def Jam, and that just hit me so hard because I'm like, I'm 19 and I'm not getting offers from anyone right now. What the heck? But like he also kind of started earlier than I did, so there's that. But I don't know. I'm trying to see him more as my peer than anything else right now, because now that I'm trying to release my first like independent full length, I'm like, that's a peer to me.
Yeah.
But he's just such a strong inspiration because that's the closest that anyone in this industry is to me. Like I stand like Childish Gambino since like I was in 7th, 8th grade. Like Tyler the Creator since I was like 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And like because at the time those were like the most similar like people I could look at.
Yeah, similar to like your music style or like your life?
Both.
Okay.
And then now there's this kid who comes from like the Woodlands area, well, Corpus Christi, the Woodlands. He's from Texas, where I'm from Oklahoma, so that's like the closest to me geographically. And he's just like the super quiet kid that like doesn't like, I don't know, I just see a lot of stuff like where I'm quiet, I lack self-confidence sometimes, but I just more believe in the things I'm doing more than myself. And then also like him being queer and him being open about that in his music is something I never had seen before. And it was like, I mean, other than like Frank Ocean, like there wasn't really anything like that. And so I think the way he makes music, so sonically and also just his life, it's just so close to me that it resonates so hard. And that was a crazy, like with Brockhampton stuff, like their 2 albums. I really started working on my album like well before they had released anything from like Saturation. Like I think I first started working on my album like way back in like November, December time frame. That was when I first started writing for Alabaster Slim, and it was under a different name. But
so like the winter of 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the end of 2016 when I first started kind of really working on it for real. I think all the way back to like February of this year was when I first started like recording and stuff and like conceptualizing it. But like I think the first like things I started writing for were like the opening track, Breathe.
Yeah.
That was gonna be like it was supposed to just be the title track of Breathe, the project. And then I just somewhere I was just like, I just kind of scrapped that and went with like, I kind of reconceptualized everything.
So you re-recorded it or you just took it? So like for Breathe, did you re-record it? So it was for...
Yeah, I had some songs for Breathe, and then either I scrapped them or I like completely just reworked them into stuff for Alabaster Slim. Like, the interlude off of Alabaster Slim, the Who's Gonna Catch Me interlude, like that was like multiple songs I had written for Breathe, and then I basically just picked the best verses from each one and like condensed them into one thing.
Yeah, that makes for a good interlude too, because it's very transitional, and it kind of shows like where it's going.
And like it was kind of crazy because at first that song was like me screaming and stuff like that, and it was like a rager song almost. And I switched it almost like into like the complete opposite, like, and it really just sounds like you're alone in your room and you're like standing at the top of a parking garage looking over the edge, just like, because I wanted to capture like, it was almost like the if I kill myself, who's gonna miss me kind of thing.
More like an internal scream.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so where did the name Alabaster Slim come from?
Okay, so being from Oklahoma, I was like, me and my homies love King of the Hill, one of my favorite cartoons. I really didn't appreciate it until I got older, and like, I don't know, me and like my best friend Cameron and like my little brother, and then like Cameron's little brother Brandon, like we would all just be always hanging out, and so we were watching King of the Hill, and there's this one episode where there's a character named Alabaster Jones. And he's this pimp from Oklahoma City, and he's a cameo character voiced by Snoop Dogg. And so I was like,
That's
a
too
character
perfect.
from Oklahoma City, voiced by Snoop Dogg, in the like on King. It was the funniest thing. The episode's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I just fucked with it. And so my friend and I, we were talking. Me and Cameron, when I went back home, like right before I went into the summer for Baylor, I went back home like April or like March. May. I went back home in May, before I went to summer school. And so we were talking about the episode, and Cameron was like, Alabaster Slim, and I was like, no, it was Alabaster Jones. But then, like, it just sat in the back of my mind, just Alabaster Slim, how tight that sounded.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo.
Honestly, I thought it was like, because like I think when I think of Slim, I think of two things. I think of Slim Shady, which is also my best friend from home. That's her nickname, because she's this white girl who always had blonde hair, and I was Dr. Dre. She was and her name to this day is Slim Shady in my phone.
Oh my god.
And in her phone, my name is Dr. Dre. So I think of like Eminem, and then her, and she's hella gangsta. You know, like she's sweet or whatever, but like she'd be listening, like planting her succulents, listening to NWA in the background.
My energy. That's the energy I'm trying to come with.
That's awesome. Okay, so you on your album you talk a lot about like your family and Oklahoma. On this one, more like specifically than Breathe. So talk a little bit about that.
Or wait, what do you mean? Are you mean Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Or okay. Well, I think when I made Stockholm Syndrome, I didn't really like have a lot of stuff about just Oklahoma. It was just like, I don't know. I didn't really shape songs the same way that I do now. And I thought when I was 17 that you can't make songs about Oklahoma because no one's gonna give a shit because it's Oklahoma, and like we don't have music coming out of Oklahoma, like especially not hip hop. Like that's like in my new stuff that I'm writing, I was like, I'm from Oklahoma where nobody makes it, nobody cares about me, so I gotta take it. You know, I'm from where I'm from Oklahoma where nobody makes it unless you got a guitar and a drum and bassist. Like we got Kings of Leon, we got All American Rejects. That's it. And like, so I was like, I can't talk about that because no one's gonna care. But then I realized, like, even like the more personal tracks off of Stockholm Syndrome are the ones people cared about so much. Like Sunday Shoes was the one that did like 16,000 on SoundCloud. That was my favorite one. I didn't think that people would feel it as hard because I'm talking about like corner of Arlington and 6, which is like where the church I went to growing up was at, and that was on the side of town where they was whipping with the wrist. Like that was over towards like Southside, or like that's like Central Southside Lawton or whatever. So I was like, yeah, that's where people whipping with the wrist at. Like that's where like a lot of trap shit happens at. So like I really was like, that's too specific, and then people still liked it. So I was like, oh, I can kind of just talk about specific stuff.
Yeah, and people like personal stuff.
People was like, that was like. It was like we're looking at like artists that I looked up to, and they would start like dropping references about stuff back home, and like I didn't know what they were talking about specifically.
Yeah.
But
like
the general
2014 Force and Stripe, that's the only one he's had that's gone double platinum.
Right.
And it's just about his one block, you know,
right.
Town he grew up.
And so, like songs by Tyler where he's talking about like specific stuff related to LA or Ladera. I don't know what he's talking about, but the whole general message of the song still hit me. And I realized, like, it's the general point of the song that hits you. Like, I just dropped a single for 3K today, and, like, one of my homies just sent me, like, this thing where he was like, yeah, I showed it to my friend, and he was like, why is he rapping about braces? And he was like, don't hear the song, listen to the song. Because the point's not about braces, it's about, like, changing your physical appearance. Can't change the shit on the inside, you know? Especially if you change for other people, that's not going to help how you feel inside. And so I was like, wow, I'm off traffic, fuck. But basically I was like, I can talk about specific stuff in my life, whether it's my family or Lawton stuff, or the homies, or things I'm going through here in Baylor. Like either way, I can talk about those things specifically, because it's not like the objects, it's the like whole point of it, like the general point that people are going to understand and care about.
So what would you say, if you had to summarize your album, this one, in like one line, what would that be?
Oh, if I had to summarize Alabaster Slim, one line. That's hard because I'm very bad with brevity.
Take your time.
I mean, for me personally, it's just me saying I'm just not the same. Like, the whole course of the album is just me basically self-narrating, like, the year and how it changed. And, like, the end of it is, like the whole thing's basically a thesis, and at the last song, not the bonus track, but, like, the Almost Didn't Drop is essentially just, like, this giant conclusion track that, like, wraps everything up. That, because there's stuff I didn't say in the main songs that I wanted to and breathe, and that's why I kind of had to transfer it over. Because, like, there were certain things that I just, like, had a whole song about, but I'm not at the personal point where I can write a whole song about those things. And so I really had a bigger vision for the project with Breathe. Like, I wanted it to say so many things as far as, like, from a social or cultural standpoint. Like, I wanted to make songs where you had to sit down and think about certain things. Because, like, I mentioned on the final track, like, being assaulted by my ex. And, like, that's a whole discourse within itself about, like, rape culture and, like, the way that people view men being raped by women. There's just, like, so much with that alone. And I was like, I had a whole song about that. Then I realized, I was like, I'm really just not the point where I can write a song about that. So, thank you.
No problem.
I realized I wasn't at the point necessarily where I could write a whole song about that. So I just threw that in, like, I don't know. So I guess it's just the whole thing is, like, I'm just not the same person. And it's like, I know there's other people who, like, definitely can resonate the same way. Because I went from, like, being, like, the perfect kid in high school to, like, spiraling out of control in college. Because there were so many things that were affecting me in high school, but because you're in your parents' house and you're under their direct rule and, like, supervision, you have to suppress so many things and, like, force yourself to pull things together. But when no one's checking up on you every day and no one's telling you what to do and making sure you're doing your homework and going to class and going to school, like, all of a sudden, like, it starts unraveling. And, like you start, like, when you, like, are struggling with your mental illness at home, like, you just kind of got to suck it up and keep it pushing because, you know, your parent, like, my parents didn't care. And I talk about the album, like, my parents really did not care about my mental health and stuff like that. And so when I got here, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can be open and actually act on, like, these mental, like, issues, and I can self-medicate and I can do all those kind of things. And so then, like, again, that just contributes to spiraling. So yeah, in one line, I'm just not the same.
Where do you see yourself going?
With music or just life in general?
Just life in general.
Honestly, and, like, it's a running theme throughout this album and probably I think through the rest of my entire discography throughout the future. Mental health will always be a main theme throughout my music because it's something I feel like it's, like, needs to be spoken on. So I think just life goals, I want to eventually, like, establish resources for kids to get mental health, like, or mental help, even if, like, they don't necessarily have the funds to do it or, like, their parents aren't trying to let them. Like, I'm trying to find a way to offer a safe haven for kids to, like, get therapy and, like, have support groups with each other and help each other out. Because, like, even when I couldn't get therapy and stuff like that, when I finally was, like, noticing kids in my school dealing with, like, the same shit and, like, dealing with depression and dealing with self-harm and stuff like that, it was, like, it made it easier to go through. I mean, like, misery loves company and all that stuff. But, like, the solidarity is really, like, important. So I want to do that. Like, that's a life goal. But I really see myself, like, I want to do music, and I'm trying to use music as a stepping stone in my life to get to other things. Like, I want to voice cartoon characters. I want to design clothes. Like, that's a high priority. Like, I'm working on my first clothing line right now for the album. And, like, I want to be involved in social circles that I wouldn't have the opportunity to without having this talent and, like, having art to push me there.
I understand.
Like, I'm a huge car enthusiast, and so, like, I grew up watching all these different, like, car shows and stuff like that. I want to, like, you know, be a guest star on that, because why not? Like, I can now. Like, there's so many things. Like, I want to be on Nardwuar. Like, that's one of my all-time favorite interviewers. I would do that so bad. Like, I want to be on, like, Pitchfork doing something interesting. I want to be on the cover of Fader one day. Like, I want my face to be as many places as possible, and I want my clothing to be as many places as possible, especially because my clothing designs that I have planned out, especially once I launch Stockholm as a brand, are going to be very controversial.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like I represent a very brash subculture that a lot of people aren't really, like, okay with being open with. Like, I get what Kevin Abstract is doing, and I get what Brockhampton is doing, but I still feel like they're not saying enough in a lot of ways. And, like, I mean, to be honest, you don't really have that anymore. Like, you had Tyler rapping about depression and stuff like that, but then he kind of, like, moved towards a positive wave.
Yeah.
We had Cuddy. He's still kind of doing it, but, like, Passion, Pain, Demon Slaying is, like, a different angle than Man in the Moon Cuddy was. And so, like, you don't really have a rapper that's just actually rapping about, like, a lot of the mental health stuff. And, like, I want to do that and also kind of, like, do stuff about this country. I don't want to be, like, another black rapper rapping about the police, but, like, at the same time, right, at the same time, that's the thing I like about fashion is if I don't want to say that in my music, I can make shirts that talk about or, like, have some type of discourse or create a discourse about, like, the military-industrial complex, because I hate that, but I don't want to rap about it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the goal: is music, clothes, help other kids.
That's very admirable thing. I think some more questions. Last question is, when are you gonna go on tour?
Oh man, I currently have a management group, but, like, they don't really keep in contact with me very much. So I need to hit them up and be like, yo, this album got me robbed. I'm trying to do shows.
Yeah.
Like, open mics, like, small venues.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's, like, done shows all throughout Deep Ellum in Dallas. So I'm trying to see if I can, you know, hook that contact in. But I now have homies in San Antonio. They're, like, popping down in San Antonio. So they're, like, trying to get me to come down there and, like, do some shit with them. So, definitely not a national tour anytime soon, I don't think. I mean, I say I don't think, but I don't know what God's got, like, the plans for me or whatever. But I don't know. Hopefully soon I can start moving throughout Texas. I don't have a car, which is a bitch. And, like, I'm not trying to have other people tow me around the state of Texas. So I'll get it figured out eventually. If I got a Greyhound to my own shows, so be it. Like,
put that in your next album.
Exactly. So I wanted to tour Texas, and then right now I'm about to just, like, work my ass off trying to get into, like, magazines and get, like, people like Pigeons and Planes and, like, Fader to cover me. Yeah. Because that's the main goal.
We're working on that right now.
Yeah, and, like, this interview right here, that's gonna be, like, my first kind of.
No, Smooth got you on the PR.
Oh snap!